Hello guys and welcome to another course brought to you by Elite Education. In this course we're going to tackle a term which is often used within the fitness industry, which is intermittent fasting. Now intermittent fasting is it's not so newly found concept, but compared to other concepts in the fitness industry it's quite new. Such that people are using it, they're getting results, they're going through transformations, but at the same time they have no idea why they got the results in the first place. Like anything in life, if you go through a process, at least you should be able to explain how you went through that process that got you results in the first place, such that you'll be able to replicate the process. Intermittent fasting is one of those things that within the fitness industry it's been quite applied, and the results that I've been getting, and even personally I've used intermittent fasting, the results that you get, they're quite astonishing. You get results if you're looking forward to, let's say, accelerate the fat loss process, shed body fat, along with other aspects or benefits that you could be achieving through intermittent fasting. It works like a charm. In this course, we're going to tackle the different benefits that you can achieve through intermittent fasting, whether physical or mental. In addition, we're going to explain with details why it works the way it does. Many individuals, like I've mentioned, within the fitness industry, they apply intermittent fasting, they get results, but they have no idea why it worked or how to replicate the process all over again. In this course, we're going to explain to you how it works, what are the reasons for why it works, along with how can you apply intermittent fasting in order to achieve successful fat loss results. It's one of those fat loss techniques or fat torching techniques out there that actually works. So in this course, if you're looking forward to develop your knowledge in intermittent fasting, along with how to apply it or use it in order to let's say accelerate your fat burning process, this is the course for you.
So IF stands for intermittent fasting. It means undergoing periods of time without sources of energy, where you don't eat or you don't drink within a period of time, followed which you go into an eating window where you are able to consume food sources and beverages that give you energy. It's a continuous cycle. For example, let's say you're sleeping for 8 to 10 hours, that's considered intermittent fasting. Because during that time period, you're not eating anything, you're not drinking anything, which is considered to be an influx of energy to your body. Now, once you wake up, let's say you skip breakfast. Now, you are stretching that fasting period. Now, intermittent fasting has many benefits. I'll show you in the next couple slides what are the benefits, at the same time how it's incorporated in order to accelerate fat loss. So we've defined what is intermittent fasting, but now let's get into the subject of what happens actually when you fast. When you start the fasting process, what happens to your body? What kind of physiological changes that do take place that cause such a change in whatever results that you're looking for, whether mentally or physically? Now, once you initiate the fasting process, as you might have encountered at one point in time, your body needs energy. Your body uses energy from different sources of food that will allow us to function on a daily basis. Now, the main form of energy, or the most used form of energy for our bodies, is sugar, glucose, along with fats. But primarily, glucose is running through the human body within the bloodstream, facilitating the functioning of different organs. For example, the organ that consumes the most amount of sugar is basically the brain. The human brain consumes 90% of the glucose throughout the day. So once we initiate the fasting process, what happens is our sources of energy get depleted. The sugar level drops down, and there's a small tweak on this specific piece of information that glucose can be stored as well in our human body, especially or specifically within the human muscles. Our exoskeleton muscles, whether in the arms, the legs, the chest, the back, irrespectively, any piece of muscle on the human body has the ability to store glucose in the form of glycogen. So if we're overeating, let's say, and we have a lot of glucose going into our body, let's say following a heavy exercise session, we consume a high amount of, let's say, carbohydrates, which provide us with the sugars. And those sugars, if they are not consumed directly by our body, they are going to transition into glycogen, which is going to be locally stored within the muscles. So once you go about storing glycogen, it's a stored form of energy. So what happens is, once you start the fasting process, your glucose level inside your bloodstream gets depleted first. Then once that amount of glucose is over, the glycogen stored in the muscles are going to be released in the bloodstream as well, following which they are going to be used. So once you're fasting, you are basically forcing your body to utilize sources of energy that are found within our body, whether we're talking about fats or glucose stored in the form of glycogen. So you can see the benefit of that. We're forcing our body to actually transition from depending on external sources of energy to actually utilize the energy that we have stored, whether in the form of fats or stored glycogen. And the key highlight of intermittent fasting is that it directly causes the cells of the body to start detoxing. So detoxification, it means the removal of toxins from cells. Think about it. Every single day we consume random sources of energy, whether junk food, sugars, chocolate bars, sweets, ice creams, you name it. All of these processed foods, they are not natural. And they are loaded with additives and processing factors that our human body is not really quite designed to accommodate. And these are basically creating toxins in our body. Our cells, let's say they have 100% performance ability, it drops down because of these toxins. We are not performing as efficient as we should be. Our cells are not being as productive as they should be because we have toxins that are coming from external sources. So when you fast, during that fasting period, you are cutting down these external sources of energy irrespectively. Therefore, you are causing your body to depend on the sources of energy available inside the body. At the same time, you are giving your body the chance to be able to let go of these toxins and clean itself. It's like a cleansing process. As soon as you initiate the fasting process, your body will start the detoxification process. Organs within your body, they are going to be detoxifying their cells, whether we're talking about the lungs, the liver, the kidneys. It's like a switch or a button that you click on, and once you do so, the cleanup process begins. And this cleanup process is initiated with fasting. So you can see the importance and the power of fasting because it has a lot of physiological benefits to it. In the following slide, we are going to, let's say, get into further depth on the subject where we are going to examine the benefits of intermittent fasting when it comes to fat loss. Now, the reason why people actually focused recently or for a period of time, why they are focusing on intermittent fasting, because it was adopted as part of an eating habit, an eating regime whose main aim was to lose body fat. Now, there are multiple techniques out there for accelerating the fat loss process. How can you lose body fat in an efficient way? And intermittent fasting basically was or is one of them. It's getting great hype in terms of its efficiency, in terms of losing body fat, as it is proven to get results quite smoothly, effectively, and in a period of time that is often thought to be quite too long, but it's not that long. So it has some key benefits, whether we're talking about at a healthier lifestyle or at a more of aesthetics point of view, where people looking forward to lose body fat, they can adopt intermittent fasting as a fat torching mechanism. So in the following slide, we are going to highlight that segment, how intermittent fasting could be used as a fat torching technique, or why people do use it to help them lose body fat. Hello guys and welcome back. In this segment of the course we're going to highlight and explain why intermittent fasting works so beautifully for fat loss. Now, scientific research has proven that intermittent fasting causes a physiological side effect, which is the release or the release beyond regular levels of growth hormone, GH. Now let me explain to you what is growth hormone at the beginning. So GH basically is a hormone that's often released by humans at the periods of puberty. I'm sure at one point in time, let's say if you encountered a 15 or 14-year-old, even like every single one of us, at that period of time you undergo physiological changes where you have things like growth spurts, where you just simply grow 4 or 5 centimeters over a period of 1 month or so. Growth hormone basically is also known as a fat torching hormone. It's one of those things that our body releases, and once being released in our bloodstream, it burns body fat. Now, the process of burning body fat is not very straightforward. We do have in our bodies, we have adipose tissues, which are basically, let's say, sacs or pockets which hold the fats in them. So what happens is, if let's say you're engaging in an activity or you're fasting, and over a period of time, your body will release those fatty acids or fats from those pockets, the adipose tissues, into the bloodstream. And they should be burned once they are released. Now, there's often a very known misconception that's often assumed that once your body releases body fat, that's it, it's gone. The fat has been utilized. On the contrary, the body will release the body fat from the adipose tissues, which are going to be cycling throughout your body to be burned. If they are not utilized for energy, they'll end up being stored elsewhere in a different adipose tissue. So what happens is, through intermittent fasting, growth hormone is increased. And once it does increase, it causes the fat burning process to increase as well. So this is one of the key benefits of intermittent fasting, which is the acceleration of fat burning through the release or the increased release of growth hormone. There's a research which basically tried to put a numeric value on what is the percentage of increase due to intermittent fasting, and the value was about over 200%. Actually, it's almost close at 300% increase in growth hormone simply due to intermittent fasting. So the first key benefit of utilizing intermittent fasting for fat burning or fat torching is the increase of growth hormone, which aids basically in fat burning acceleration. The second point, which makes intermittent fasting a very powerful tool for fat burning, is that it controls the hormone insulin. Now, I'm not sure if you heard the term insulin before, but insulin is basically an anabolic hormone. Insulin basically is quite familiar, or let's say quite known with individuals with diabetes, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, where type 1 diabetes, basically the human body does not release insulin to remove the sugars from the bloodstream, and type 2 diabetes, where basically there's an excessive release of insulin into the body, and the body is not able to clear out, let's say, the excessive insulin from the bloodstream. So insulin is a hormone which is quite an anabolic hormone. It's when we say anabolic, it means it's a storage hormone. So what happens is, once you're consuming, let's say, sugars, insulin is released in order to curb and control those sugars. Sugar for us humans is quite toxic. Throughout our bloodstream, we have almost like a teaspoon of glucose circulating through our bodies. And what happens is, let's say, once you eat a donut or you consume something which is quite processed or sugary, your pancreas releases insulin into your blood in order to clean out those sugars and shuttle them back into, let's say, the muscles to be used. And if not used, they'll be used to increase your body fat. So let's rephrase the process. You overeat, insulin is released, insulin will shuttle down sugars flowing in your blood. If there's no place for them to go, it will be taken to be stored as body fat within the adipose tissues. So intermittent fasting, what does it do? It actually lowers the insulin level. Once insulin is quite lowered, it means your body is no longer in a storage state. It's no longer in an anabolic state. It's in a catabolic state. It's breaking down resources, breaking down fats. So insulin has an inverse relationship with fat loss. So it means if insulin goes up, your fat loss goes down. If your insulin goes down, your fat loss goes up. Now, this is an often overlooked insight on the fat loss process. So, what intermittent fasting helps you with is that it controls your level of insulin such that your body has lower insulin levels, which means your fat process is higher. Also, your sensitivity to sugar is more. So once your insulin levels are quite lower or they go down, your body is more sensitive now to sugars, which means a smaller amount of insulin is able to do the exact same job of a higher amount of insulin, which of just simply trying to shuttle down sugars into your muscles and different organs. So you can see basically the huge importance and benefit of intermittent fasting in that sense. So intermittent fasting, when it comes to fat loss, it has two key features. First of all, it increases the release of growth hormone, which is a fat torching hormone. Also, it helps you control and lower down insulin levels, which is basically a storage hormone. So you have an increase of a fat torching hormone and you have a decrease of a fat storage hormone. So you're creating that, let's say, environment which is going to accelerate your fat burning process through the use of intermittent fasting. So we've established earlier that intermittent fasting is a powerful fat loss or fat torching technique in which it promotes a great hormonal environment in our bodies by the release of growth hormone and the control of insulin hormone, which with that lovely combination, our bodies are efficient at burning body fat. Now, in this segment of the course, we're going to examine how intermittent fasting actually aids in muscle mass retention. If you are an athlete, if you engage in weightlifting like I do, for example, and you're looking forward to develop muscle mass or to control the muscle mass that you have and retain it. Now, if you're a veteran weightlifter, you might be you've most probably have come across the repetitive meal consumption where you're required to eat 5 to 6 meals a day in order to retain the amount of proteins that your body needs to maintain that muscle mass. But as times have passed, that whole argument changed because there are different techniques out there, and one of them is intermittent fasting that can actually change how your body uses its sources of energy and positively affect or impact the environment within our body to promote fat loss and maintain muscle. So it's quite interesting how that happens. We've established how the fat loss process happens, but now let's take a look at the muscle retention process. Now, in the previous segment, we talked about the release of growth hormone, where we have established that it's a fat burning hormone. Also, growth hormone is a muscle sparing hormone, a muscle building hormone. Growth hormone, what it does is, once it's released in your bloodstream, it causes your body to release body fat, to drop down body fat. But at the same time, it channels your body to prevent the muscular breakdown. It causes your body to retain muscles. It's like sending your body signals, avoid breaking down the muscles, we need them. Focus on breaking down the body fat, we don't need them. That what happens with a simplistic way within your body. So growth hormone, in addition to being a fat burning hormone, it's also a muscle building hormone. So you can see the power, the effect that intermittent fasting has in your physiological environment, in your own environment within your body. You are able to lose body fat effectively and retain the muscle that you have. Because any veteran weightlifter within our course right now, you know for sure that if you're trying to drop body fat, you often come across the undeniable outcome, which is you're going to lose muscle. Because if you are dropping down pounds, it means your body is catabolic, in a catabolic state. Therefore, you are going to break down muscles along with breaking down body fats. But with intermittent fasting, we tend to have some sort of a leeway. We tend to actually minimize the muscular breakdown and increase the fat breakdown. So you are able to retain your muscle as you go about breaking down body fat. Now, it differs, guys, from one individual to the other. Now, some of you might retain perfectly, like I say, 90%, 85%, but some of you might retain muscle, let's say 96%. But compared to the usual applications of repetitive meals consumption, it works way better in terms of retaining your muscle mass. In addition, this is another, let's say, insider, not secret, or an insider in-depth observation regarding to intermittent fasting, which is often overlooked and often it goes by unnoticed. I would like to highlight that once you go about intermittent fasting, your body, due to all of these physiological changes, becomes more efficient. Hence, your proteins, your muscle proteins, they have a lower tendency to being broken down. So your body will be able to do more with a lower number of proteins compared to what it was able to do so with, let's say, 4 to 5 meals loaded with proteins. Do you get the analogy? So if you're usually used to consuming 4 to 5 meals and all of them they have, let's say, about 50 to 60 grams of proteins, your body is able to use some of those, or it will flush out the rest that has no use, or stored for energy as fat. But through intermittent fasting, your body, because it's undergoing a state of no food sources, then it creates that environment within our bodies where we have to be efficient. We have to use whatever we have in the best way possible. This is the state that your body goes at. So if you give it a meal or two that has sufficient amounts of proteins, your body will make them count. It will use them effectively. It will use them in a proper way to promote the best interest of our bodies. So intermittent fasting has a great muscle retention benefit, such that it increases the release of growth hormone, which we said is a muscle building or muscle retaining hormone. Also, it causes our bodies to become more efficient with how they use the proteins. So if our body is able to use the proteins effectively and efficiently, it means we are able to utilize a lower amount of proteins and get results that we are looking for, compared to overloading our bodies with proteins that are simply not usable to our bodies. So we've covered these two important factors. These are two important insider tips and secrets regarding to intermittent fasting that are often overlooked. Rather, we have individuals or people, let's say within the fitness industry, they try to apply these concepts such as intermittent fasting without actually knowing what happens behind the scene. So now we're uncovering it for you, how it works, what it does, what are the changes that promote the results that we are looking forward to having. So we've talked about how intermittent fasting helps you maintain your muscles, burn body fat, and the mental and physical benefits of intermittent fasting. But there's an often overlooked side effect. Well, we're not going to call it as a side effect because it's a positive thing. It's a positive side effect to intermittent fasting, which is often overlooked. The argument goes as follows. How come you are consuming less but your body is able to do more? For example, if you're used to having 4 to 5 oranges a day, and you're getting your dose of vitamin C that you need per day, and then you reduce the intake of vitamin C as you're fasting, how come your body is able to maintain the required levels of vitamin C with the lack of resources? Now, the answer to that is efficiency. As you embark on intermittent fasting, your body becomes more efficient. You're training your body to use its resources effectively, such that it's able to do more with less. The same analogy applies to proteins. When you are consuming 5 to 6 meals a day, you're continuously providing an influx of proteins to your cells, to your bodies, in order to provide the building blocks to muscles. However, your body is not just simply going to use all the sources of protein to build muscles. Some of them will be used, the rest will be going to waste. But as you go about intermittent fasting, as throughout that fasting period, your body is adjusting. It's learning that you have to do more with whatever you're given with. So if in the eating window you provide it with the proteins it needs, it's going to utilize those resources effectively and properly, let's say assuming that you're going to fast later on. Therefore, your body becomes more efficient in the way it uses its resources, such as vitamins, minerals, proteins. It's able to effectively absorb these nutrients and use them to fulfill bodily functions in a proper manner compared to the regular eating habits where you just simply eat randomly throughout the day, and whatever you're eating, some of it is going to be used as a resource while the rest will be just simply excreted as waste. So it's an unexpected outcome that comes from intermittent fasting, which really supplements the previous benefits that we talked about, whether physical, mental, in terms of fat loss, mental clarity, and muscle sparing. So all of these together are basically, let's call them the wonders of intermittent fasting, where you are able to maintain muscle, torch body fat, increase your mental clarity, become more focused, at the same time effectively utilize whatever your resources, the resources that you are consuming within your eating window. So intermittent fasting is a very powerful tool that you can add to your daily lifestyle to help you take your overall well-being to the next level. And it's most important to highlight that it's not dieting. So intermittent fasting is not a form of dieting. Basically, it's a habit that you develop where you are able to eat in a specific regime in order to achieve a desired result. So it's often confused that intermittent fasting is basically one of those diets. That's not a diet, guys. Intermittent fasting is not considered to be a diet because you're simply shifting around what you're eating to slots of time, to windows of time, in order to leverage the potential of your body to clean itself, maintain itself, and utilize the side effects that your body, or the response that your body has to fasting, in a positive way to ensure your overall well-being. So it's very important to keep that in mind. So in the following segment, I will show you some of the tweaks that you can add to intermittent fasting in order to help you achieve your goals in an accelerated version without feeling sluggish along the way, along with avoiding some of the obstacles or the mistakes that many people tend to do as they go about intermittent fasting. Hello guys and welcome back. So we've talked about the benefits of intermittent fasting, both physical and mental, along with the unexpected outcomes that our bodies undergo as we go about intermittent fasting. Also explain the meaning of intermittent fasting, which is basically undergoing periods of time where we're not ingesting either food or drinkable sources of energy. However, the main important point is, if you decide to adopt intermittent fasting as part of your daily requirement or daily lifestyle, how can you go about this? Now, let me break it to you. Most probably at one point in your life, you have engaged in intermittent fasting and you have no idea. If you woke up in the morning, let's say, and you skipped a meal or two, let's say after 8 hours of sleep, you woke up in the morning and you decided to skip breakfast on your way to work or to school. That's intermittent fasting. at a basic level. If you are undergoing periods of time where your body has no influx of energy, whether as a food source or a drink source, you are undergoing intermittent fasting. However, within the fitness industry or regarding the fitness application of intermittent fasting, there's a common known approach which is basically called the 16 to 8 ratio. 16 to 8, which means 16 hours of fasting followed by an 8-hour window. Now, there are two key terminologies here you have to keep in mind: the fasting state or the fasting hours, which obviously mean you're going to be fasting during these hours, and the window, eating window. So in that eating window, it means this is the time where you are able to ingest energy, whether as a food or drinkable source. So the 16 to 8 ratio, it means you'll be undergoing 16 hours of fasting, followed by an 8-hour window where you can eat and drink juices, water, beverages based on your daily requirements within that period of time. So let's say you sleep at 12, you wake up at 8. Now these are 8 hours of sleep, 12 to 8, correct? You wake up in the morning, you skip breakfast, right? And you don't eat anything, you just simply drink water or coffee without sugar or tea without sugar. So basically there are no sources of energy going into your body, again, from 12 to 8. And you decide you're going to skip breakfast and you're going to wait all the way up till lunch. So 12 to 8, and let's add 8 more hours, that will be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically you have fasted for 16 hours. So from 12 to 8, you were sleeping, and from 8 to 4, you're going about your day where you're simply drinking water, drinking some tea without sugar, drinking some coffee without sugar if you like, but you're not ingesting any sources of energy till 4 p.m. And for the next 8 hours, let's say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, that will be your eating window in which you are able to consume your daily intake within that period of time. So you're fasting for 16 hours and you are eating for within that 8 hours. So this is basically the application of the basic or the regular application of intermittent fasting as per the industry standards, the fitness industry standard, what people have used, they have adopted and got results from, the 16 to 8 basic approach. Now, you can have an advanced approach to intermittent fasting where you reduce your eating window such that you have, instead of having 16 hours, you decide you want to have 18 hours of fasting followed by 6 hours eating window. So 18 hours of fasting followed by 6 hours eating window compared to 16 hours of fasting followed by an 8 hours eating window. So you can tell basically as you reduce your eating window and you increase your fasting window, you will be, let's say, forcing your body to tap into reserves such as fats and use them effectively to supplement for resources. So in order to accelerate that process of fat loss, instead of having the 8 hours window, you decided to reduce it to 6 or 4. So the smaller the window, the faster the process, or the more efficient or effective the intermittent fasting is, right? And the larger the window, the less effective it is. Think about it. If you make the eating window too large such that you're eating at regular hours, it means you're no longer engaged in intermittent fasting. But however, if you reduce your eating window, it means you're engaging in intermittent fasting and you're allocating a specific time for your body to have resources, and the rest of the day, you're no longer engaging or having a supplement of resources going into your body. Also, I'd like to highlight an important point, guys. Now, often out there, let's say, if within fitness enthusiasts application, they would, let's say, highlight that you can go for a longer period of time with intermittent fasting, but I wouldn't recommend it. Simply keep it as simple and as applicable as is. You don't want to fast for 24 hours, of course, even though some approaches to intermittent fasting, they would highlight that you could fast for 24 hours and then you can eat the next day. We don't advise it, we don't advocate for it, because fasting for an extensive period of time could have negative consequences, such that you're feeling lightheaded, you feel energy depleted, lack of focus, orientation, and these other things that come afterwards if you extensively fast beyond, let's say, reasonable limits. And what are the reasonable limits? Basically apply the 16 hours to 8 hours, that's it. Keep it as simple, where you'll be able to reap the benefits that you need, the physical, the mental approaches that you need, without going to levels that you don't need to go to. Okay, we came across multiple applications where some, let's say, individuals, they want to try and go ahead and apply intermittent fasting for 24 hours, where they simply fast for 24 hours, they only drink water, and then they don't eat anything throughout the period of 24 hours, followed by they allow themselves to eat in the next day. For us, we don't apply the application and we don't advise for it. Why? Because it can have complications what you don't need to have. You're trying to become healthier, more efficient, more mentally focused, more physically fit. In order to do so, you can just simply apply the 16 hours to 8 hours approach. That's it. That's a key important point. So 16 hours of fasting followed by 8 hours eating window. And if you're trying to transition into it, you can start off by skipping a meal or two. You don't have to dive directly into intermittent fasting and go for 16 to 8 hours. So let's summarize, guys. Intermittent fasting, you can ease into it. You can transition to intermittent fasting by simply skipping, for example, breakfast. That's a basic application of intermittent fasting. And the actual proper application would be 16 hours to 8 hours, where 16 hours you're fasting, 12 to 8 you are sleeping, right? Followed by 8 hours when you wake up in the morning, let's say, and you don't eat anything, just simply drink water, have some tea that has no sugar in it, coffee that has no sugar in it for the next 8 hours, which means 16 hours of fasting, followed by the eating window where you are able to eat within those 8 hours. That's it. Fasting beyond that, where you have extensive periods of fast, 20 hours for 24 hours, we don't really advocate for it. If you're trying to reap the benefits, like we have mentioned, of intermittent fasting, 16 to 18 hours of fasting, that's more than enough, guys. That's it. Okay, so in this segment, we have highlighted how to go about applying intermittent fasting throughout your day. As you can see in the picture that I presented for you, you have a clock where you can see the different allocation of hours to help simply guide you how can you go about applying it throughout your day. Also keep in mind that the hours vary. For example, some people, they wake up at 10 while others wake up at 4, and some of them, they sleep up late or they sleep in quite early. So you have to adjust the timing based on your own schedule. But the bigger picture would be 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating window. In the following slide, I will show you some tweaks based on my expertise and experience. How can you accelerate the process of, let's say, torching body fat as you go about engaging in intermittent fasting, along with hiccups and obstacles to avoid as you go about intermittent fasting that many tend to apply without knowing, which will hinder their results. So I'll see you in the next segment.
Hello guys and welcome back. In the previous segment we talked about how can we implement intermittent fasting as part of our daily lives, where we learned about the fasting timings along with the eating windows, where we can just simply allocate different hours to approach either one of them. In this segment of the course, we're going to highlight, and I'll be going to teach you a couple tips and tweaks that you can implement in order to leverage the benefits of intermittent fasting to their true potential, to their maximum potential. So let's just simply get right into it. Point number one, you can increase the fasting window such that you are fasting for longer hours beyond 16 hours and reduce your eating window, which means you'll be fasting for a longer period of time. Therefore, your body will remain in that fasted state and reaping the benefits that come along from being within that fasted state that we have mentioned in the previous segments. So instead of going for 16 hours where you are fasting followed by a window of 8 hours while you are eating, You can increase it to 18 hours of fasting and reduce it from 8 hours of eating window to 6 hours eating window. So the smaller the gap, or the smaller the fasting window or fasting state, the more benefits you'll be reaping from the intermittent fasting. But keep in mind that we broke it down to a detailed approach in the previous segment. Avoid going beyond the dictated or the mentioned set of guidelines that we talked about earlier, where you can just simply reap the benefits, where you go for 16 hours of fasting followed by 8 hours of an eating window. If you want to reduce that gap, if you want to reduce the fasting hours or increase the fasting hours, you can. So if you want to increase the fasting hours, you can go for 18 to 19 hours, but avoid going beyond that specific point, like we have talked about it earlier, because you don't want to get tired, you don't want to get fatigued and less motivated. So the optimal way to go about it is go from 16 to 18 to 19 hours of fasting, and the rest of the hours will be basically the time where you can consume your foods and your beverages. Point number 2, avoid sugary drinks or juices. It's quite often it's a mistake that many individuals do as they go about intermittent fasting, let's say for a month or two, and they don't notice any results. And after consulting, they will realize that they have been consuming energy-based beverages such as juice, orange juice, whatever juice it is, or coffee that has sugar in it, or milk in it, or tea with some addition of milk or sugar. So irrespectively. So these basically additives, they contribute to adding energy to your body. Therefore, they get in the way of intermittent fasting. You can have coffee, but without sugar. You can have tea, but without sugar. You can drink water, of course, because water does not provide you with energy. That's perfectly fine. So avoid sugar or energy-based drinks and foods. And hydrate often, especially when you are fasting. Drink water. Okay, a couple glasses of water, a bottle of water throughout the time that you're fasting. Stay hydrated to make sure that your metabolism stays up and you keep on getting the benefits of intermittent fasting. Point number 3, try to incorporate exercise. Now, exercise is a great addition to intermittent fasting because it can help you increase the benefits you're obtaining from intermittent fasting. So within the eating window, let's say after you're done eating within a couple of hours, within that window, you can just simply have a weight training session, engage in a cardio session, go for a light jog, or you can just have a 45 minutes of weightlifting session at the gym. Try to exercise. By adding exercise, you'll help push the limits of intermittent fasting such that you are leveraging the benefits during the fasting state and during the eating window. Once you're having your foods, you're actually telling your body that you need those resources to help you respond to the stimulus that you have given it, which is basically the exercise. So guys, we've talked about the benefits of intermittent fasting in terms of physical and mental. How can we apply it, and what is the way to actually allocate the hours for fasting and eating, along with the overlooked let's say side effect or consequence, the positive consequence, which is basically how efficient your body becomes as you go about intermittent fasting. And we got to the point where we added some tips and tricks and tweaks that we have talked about in this segment of the course. So we have come to the conclusion of our course, and we have addressed the wonders of intermittent fasting.
It's been a pleasure having you as part of the community and as part of the course. And if you're looking forward to taking the next step in terms of your fat loss journey, and if you're looking for a complete program and fat loss course that will provide you with the knowledge, information, and best practices that will encompass everything that you need to know in order to successfully transition and shed pounds, then by all means enroll in our masterclass, the Lose Fat Fast, the complete course and program provided to you by the Office Fitness, along with our Academy Elite Education,
which will help you transform and transition to achieve your required goal. We've been receiving great feedback on this program because it incorporates everything that you need to know and what actually works, compared to random information that doesn't seem to take you anywhere rather than just simply keeping you confused on how to achieve your fat loss goals. So if that's of interest to you, and if you're looking forward to taking the next step, I've left for you a coupon, a quite of a great value. In the resources segment, you can just simply use it and go ahead and enroll in our academy and begin your transformational journey. And if you need any support throughout the journey, we'll be right there with you to help you address and tackle those obstacles. Wishing you all the best, and hopefully we'll see you in the upcoming courses.